All right, folks, performance. Everyone wants to know what performance is like in different games because Lord knows with this new tech they got out now as far as graphics and these Unreal Engine 5 and this and that and all these crazy graphics engines. Shh, man, it's like graphics cards be smoking, catching on fire. Everybody's consoles gonna run 30 frames now when they promise 60. It's getting bad out here, man. Me personally, for Dragon's Dogma 2, I'm gonna be worried about the performance for PC. I know some of my friends, they be worried about the performance for console and everything. So we finna get into the performance review of Dragon's Dogma 2 because I'm gonna be curious about that too. I want to know what I can actually play this on without my PC catching on fire. You know what I'm saying? Start off with a good smack on the ass, bro. That's how you start the game out. Beautiful.
Capcom really upped its game with their RE engine that debuted in 2017's Resident Evil 7. It has seen Capcom through 16 games and 3 console generations, but none were as demanding and out of that design scope as Dragon's Dogma 2, which is probably why it's the first to make this versatile engine visibly bulge at the seams. This is a game that relies on physically based materials, photogrammetry textures and realistic human models and animation, alongside a fantastical and mythical world. But the bumpers come off in places where we see the open-ended dynamic and systemic game design with CPU-controlled enemies and teammates, vast open plains to explore and dense towns with constant data streaming. This flips
60 right there. You need a 49 for that.
Engine's focus on its head, raising the demands on the throughput, the teams, memory management, and ultimately performance.
Dang! Hey, hold up. Hold the hell up, bro.
Engine.
This is probably about the performance and everything, but sometimes the gameplay still gets me sometimes. The stuff that you can do, he really just launched your boy off the cliff, man. I'm doing that. But, all right, my bad. We're getting back to the performance. We want to know about, can we run this game at 60 frames with what we got? You know what I'm saying? So let's see what's up.
Always delivers good-looking games, and Dragon's Dogma 2 is no different. Obviously, it's a vast increase over the original Xbox 360 and PS3 versions.
Hold the hell up.
Offering
all right, I had to put it in
details, dense geometry,
increase the quality real quick for y'all.
Creatures, dynamic weather and time of day, long view distance, dense and highly reactive foliage, volumetrics, screen space reflections, and it looks to use mesh shading, tessellated ground, and good shadow maps and dynamic lights, which offers a game that has all the hallmarks of the RE engine and Capcom art design, but on a much larger scale. Scaling from the highest end PC with an RTX 4090 down to the Xbox Series S offers up a vast range of hardware specifications. Let's ignore the Steam Deck.
Oh God, no!
Let's start with those important options and numbers Dragon's
RP to that Steam Deck, bro.
There's a single mode across all consoles, but using the PC, we can see a selection of adjustments with nice visual examples for many, which helps understand the changes and effects you make within the RE engine. But something jumps out. The range of options within each setting is limited. Most are a simple on-off toggle or only a low or high setting, with textures and image quality being the most vital. All three console versions are close to identical in base settings, which align close to the maximum on PC with some reductions. Specifically, there's no ray tracing on Series S, but it is present on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Ambient occlusion is a screen space variety on Series S rather than the signed distant fields or ray tracing option of the PC's highest setting and bigger consoles. Mesh level of detail looks closest to high rather than max.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna be real with y'all. It took me a little minute to realize this was just a completely different character back here. I'm not, like I was up here like, God dang, PS5, even with those graphics, bro. You know what I'm saying? they rendered in the beard hair and everything. But I had a slow moment just then, man. My bad, bro. I'm like, they rendered in his scar, they rendered in the facial hair and everything, bro. I'm like, damn, PS5 got a good ass system. Then I thought about it, I'm like, hold on, bro, this is a different character altogether, man. I'm sorry, bro.
Of the PC's highest setting and bigger consoles. Mesh level of detail looks closest to high rather than max, and shadows again are closest to high rather than maximum. The textures themselves are likely high or max on PS5 and
Yeah.
Xbox Series X, but close to low on Xbox Series S, which is a problem for that console. Series S and Series X reduce the image quality relative to the PC, at least. It comes in close to the 5th level out of 10 on the settings slider for image quality, and closer to 3 or 4 for the Series S. Some areas also look to have slightly lower level of detail on the Series consoles, but this is very minor. This leaves the PlayStation 5 with a substantially sharper
very
and
minor,
more
but do you
detailed
see
image
this?
than the other two machines, a reverse of what we saw with Resident Evil 4 Remake. Thus, the setting appears to be shader pass and pixel sampling related. It effectively impacts textures, shadows, ambient occlusion, alpha effects, so all grass, fire, rocks, signs and people are impacted with a blockier, more pixelated image and softer details due to lower samples, which is reduced further by the temporal anti-aliasing pass. It stands out in comparisons, and although not detrimental on Series X during standalone play, the image quality reduction is one of the largest I have seen since Resident Evil 4. The Series S, though, is a huge reduction over PS5 and even Series X, with textures and image quality being severely degraded. Grass Alpha is another small concession, and it's quite notable relative to the other two consoles. The final piece of image quality, as per previous games, is the resolution output choice. All three consoles use the interlace setting by the looks of things, and this means a full 4K output on PS5 and Series X
PS5 looking
via
pretty
a
good for what I'm looking at.
half-width rasterization pass on the horizontal axis. The Series S drops to 2560 by 1440 output, coming up from a 1280 by 1440p base. Pixel counters amongst you may notice that this is half the pixels of a full 4K on the bigger consoles and less pixels than a 1920 by 1080 output on the Series S. Ultimately, these are the same targets as Resident Evil 4's resolution mode for each console.
Hey, I'm hope y'all catching this. So this is another part I'm worried about. I'm worried about how is it gonna run on PC. You feel me? So I hope all my console people are paying attention to this, or people who want to buy it on console, because you know some people got both. You know what I'm saying? I got both. But look, man, I hope y'all catching this and everything, because I'm worried about the PC. I'm waiting to see what it's gonna be like on PC. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Sometime, man, I be worried, man. You'll be having to optimize. You gotta turn down shadows. You gotta turn down the fog, or this or that. And you realize that some settings don't even really matter for real. There's not really much of a difference between certain things. And then, you know, sometimes it's all about if you're actually looking for it. Cause like, if you know what to look for, of course you're gonna be like, oh my God, these graphics are ass. Then to the average Joe Schmo, they up there just looking like, hey, I mean, I don't see no damn difference. Some people can't tell the difference between 1440p and 4K. Some people can't see the difference between like ultra settings and medium settings. You know what I'm saying? Some people just really can't see the difference. Some people don't give a shit. And I used to be one of those people, I ain't gonna lie. I would say looking at videos that show me like what to look for and everything as far as graphics, that has cursed me, dog. Cause now I'll be looking at graphics, I'm like, hey bruh, shit's kinda ass. But my bad, let's go ahead and keep on going.
As we covered in our preview, Dragon's Dogma 2 may have an unlocked frame rate, but 60 FPS is all but impossible to achieve on consoles, and from all my tests, impossible to lock out on PC, including with that
Medusa got her titties out, bro.
4090. However, the reasons for this are not straightforward, and my testing had to go deeper on some aspects. Let me explain. During development, many games run with no cap on the performance, just limited by the TV or monitor sync limit. Capped or half-rate options are normally added later. The fact the review version is still unlocked like this is a small red flag that makes me wonder what other corners might have been cut to get this out the door. But of course, Capcom has released games on weaker consoles with the same unlocked rate, even when the console could never hit 60 FPS, such as Resident Evil 4 on the PlayStation 4. By leaving it unlocked though, overall performance can be improved in comparison to a 33 millisecond cap whilst in development. The reason is Dragon's Dogma 2 often becomes bandwidth or fill rate limited, and this is a bigger issue on consoles due to the contention they have with GPU and CPU sharing the same memory bus and bandwidth. A PC has 2 dedicated memory pools, which has its own issues, but here it's an advantage, and this is why we see the use of interlacing, and on the Xbox consoles, a lowering of the image quality settings to reduce pressure, with the Series S being impacted the most due to its much smaller RAM allocation and bandwidth. On all consoles though, we see similar readouts, often hovering between the lower end of 30 to 40. Series X is slightly better than the PS5, within 4% on average, but most often being within margin of error. Once we get any heavy alpha effects such as fire-breathing dragons, flooding water or dense foliage in alpha, we see this bandwidth contention crop up, dropping us into the 50s to 70 millisecond range on frame times, which means bouts of sub 30 FPS. The other big issue, and what explains why the team at Capcom has taken the choice to ship the highest resolution and image quality on each, are the towns. Vernworth, for example, stresses the engine and hardware most, with many aspects it was never designed for. Large, dense open areas, high geometry and material samples, large number of NPCs with dynamic pathfinding, AI, emerging gameplay, state models, and then the biggest one, consistent data streaming and management. Here, all platforms struggle with frame times bouncing up and down like a ping pong ball. In a run to the tavern, which is a well-known tradition here in England, both consoles are sub 30 FPS as the CPU and memory demands cause erratic performance, which hits its deepest low as you enter the pub and the NPCs are instantiated and then allocated a state. The faster the hardware, or the more reductions made on the amount of data and tasks the platform is pushing, the better your
Okay, that's sort of 3080 right there.
But on my high-end 5800X3D, which is an 8-core 16-thread CPU at 4.5 GHz, we are often in the 30 FPS range here whilst moving around the town. The consoles do not use the SSD and dedicated hardware designs very well, or maybe even at all, with the impact being higher here than you would expect. Specifically on the PS5, as that has more silicon dedicated to alleviate data seek and load from the CPU. The Series X is slightly worse in the CPU impacted areas, but again, it's academic as neither delivers a stable frame time readout. The Series S performance is close enough to both, with it being on average just below the PS5, but without a frame rate analysis they all feel about the same in play. But the Series S will dip into the same bandwidth and CPU heavy sections, even with those significant reductions relative to the bigger consoles. The smaller console delivers close enough performance metrics here not to miss anything, but the biggest deltas are the sacrifices in textures and image quality, and that small pool of RAM highlights the impacts on how Dragon's Dogma 2 looks far more than the frame rate does. I am sure with more time and effort, the team can improve the current state on all formats, but the Series S is the one most in need due to the degraded
This
image.
thing barely loading any textures.
Even on a 1080p screen, this is an obvious eyesore. A variable refresh rate or VRR screen will not help here, as all of the consoles are often below the required range and can even stutter into 50-80 milliseconds frequently during many areas, and that cannot be resolved by the technology.
A Cyclops! Oh, pray, be on your guard.
Man.
The PC version starts well. A DirectX 12 API kicks off a fixed shader compilation pass, and then once complete,
that's all we know.
Never have to think about that again.
Put this shit out. Get this out of my screen, bro. We ain't worried about no Steam Deck right now.
Though. It's
that shit's impossible right there.
Bandwidth and API related, but even at a forced 640
that bitch say 10 frames on the
and low settings, we are seeing a paltry 7 to 14 FPS at best. At the same time, this is the first game from Capcom that appears to have had a high-end PC focus from the start, and may have even had a PC-developed game from the off, due to the big RPG market PC has. I'm led to believe this is because it offers both DLSS and FSR options right out of the box, with NVIDIA latency boost also within the menu. Both are better options than interlaced, so long as they are set at balanced or higher, with DLSS being clearly superior. From a GPU perspective, my RTX 4090 has far more performance and bandwidth than anything else, and at such a 4K output using DLSS quality offers a vastly superior image quality to consoles. The ray trace global illumination can also be turned on, but the improvement here was often very slight to invisible outside, but improved ambient shadows inside. And aside some edge cases such as on water bodies, the performance cost may not be worth it for most. During the GPU heavier sections out in the wild, fighting griffins, trolls,
I'm definitely not turning on ray tracing
Dragon's Dogma 2 holds a
at all.
close lock on 60 FPS, and even higher if you have the screen to support it. But it can dip and sway during rapid action, and fast camera movement or streaming sections under 60 FPS often enough to notice. But a G-Sync or such screen would help here. These are, again, the same issues with CPU memory and data, causing the GPU to stall and wait for work, which means we get delays in our frame delivery and thus frame rates can still drop below 60. But even on the RTX 4090, you cannot run the game at native 4K. It's consistently somewhere between the 30s and 40s. In the towns, the GPU is much less of an issue, and here...
Bro, running something in native resolution is a thing of the past now, man. Like, if you're telling people that they can have... the game can look better with DLSS quality, look better in DLSS quality than native, to the native resolution, why the hell will we even use native resolution? You know what I'm saying? And but like you know, of course people want to, you know, but sometimes I guess it's like a mind thing too on top of that, because people want to, you buy a 4K monitor, a 4K monitor, you want to run your games in 4K 2160, you want to run it in 2160, you know what I'm saying? That's what you want to run it in. Or you want to be like, nah, I don't know DLSS, bro, forget that. I don't want DLSS to mess up the looks of the game. Like, you know, some people believe native looks better, but in some games, DLSS quality and everything looks better than native. And but that's in some games, I guess. You know, like half the games be like that, from what I've been seeing. You know what I'm saying? And it's a damn shame, bro. You need all this anyway to even run games nowadays. Like, look at this. Max settings, 4K DLSS quality with a 4090, 5800X 3D. Like, you need all that just to even try to get 60 frames, and it's even still not even consistent 60 frames. Still drops. But that's, of course, they got everything maxed out. You optimize your computer very well. Well, not computer, but you optimize the settings pretty well. Like, lower some of the settings and everything, because you really don't need ultra settings on everything. You only need to have max settings on all the stuff, man. Some of that stuff you're not even gonna even pay attention to for real. Like shadows. Like, I've been saying that a lot. You're not gonna pay attention to that. You're not. Some textures you might not even pay attention to. Like who gonna sit up here and be walking by? Who gonna be just running along and then be like, damn, bro, the dents in that brick is something else. You're not gonna be saying that shit. You're not, bro. You know, you're not finna sit up here and be admiring like how nice this shadow look beside you and stuff. Man, you're not finna be looking at all that shit. You be worried about that action, boss. Get them frames up and get into that action. All right, let's resume.
The CPU and data streaming demands mean we are again down into the 30s with stutter. We're fully CPU memory bound here, and no GPU performance can resolve this because it's not a GPU issue. It remains something for the developers to attempt to resolve, and just as this review was closing out, the team confirmed my findings. They plan to investigate the high CPU demands due to the NPC state models and location tracking, so an update should land once ready. Moving down the stack and sitting in between the PS5 and the RTX 4090 is my AMD-powered RX 6800 with a 6-core 12-thread 5600X. We can run Dragon's Dogma 2 with a superior image quality using FSR 3 set to balanced at 4K and settings close to the PlayStation 5, and we get a 45 to 60 FPS performance in those grassy hills and creature battles, and of course we are always at the mercy of the CPU performance in those towns, and as such we can see lower performance and more stutters as the GPU is left waiting for work. On PC, memory demands can exceed 8GB of system RAM and 13GB of VRAM, which is far higher than expected levels, which pretty much sums up the performance requirements at this point for the game. Loading is not such a highlight, again pointing back to the core aspects of data and streaming memory management. It still is very fast considering the size of the world, but across PS5, series consoles and SSD equipped PCs, they're all approximately 15 seconds to load in. Of course,
shit, you got enough time to go microwave you a damn hot pocket, bro.
SSD speeds, and this is reinforced by the Series X beating the PlayStation 5. When picking which platform to play Dragon's Dogma 2 on, be aware that PC players get the best choice of options and image quality thanks to this being the first game from Capcom to ship with DLSS and FSR 3. offering
Yes.
enhanced image quality over consoles. However, CPU and memory impacts remain the biggest cause for concern in performance, which highlights why the team has pushed settings and resolution as high as possible on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S. No matter what, the frame rate is going to drop to sub 30 FPS when you're in town. A closer hold to that benchmark with better image quality is their aim, rather than large spikes from 60 to 30 and degraded image quality the whole time. And this is where they need to improve, as even at the lowest settings on PC, we leave 70% or more GPU performance on the table and still run under 30 FPS in these worst case instances. If I was a betting man, I would suspect over the next 2 months or so, patches will come that will improve the consistency, if not the overall performance across the board. None of this distracts from the superb game that Dragon's Dogma 2 is, but if you are sensitive to frame rate fluctuations, it may be worth giving them the time before embarking on this majestic journey, because the performance issues that are along for the ride at the moment could be enough to ruin that adventure. And that's it for the deep dive into games, technology, and all things Dragon Dogma related. Remember, if you like what we do here on IGN Performance Reviews,
Yes, go like IGN's video. The boys work hard. You know who else finna work hard? All the benchmarking YouTubers finna work hard too. Go check them out. If y'all know some, hey, give them a shout out in the comments or whatever. Those guys be saving, you know, people a lot of time, man, when it comes to you know, trying to optimize the performance of their games and stuff. And that stuff's gonna be needed, especially for PC players, man. We're gonna be dropping settings, raising some settings, doing this, doing that, choosing which DLSS to use or which FSR, you know what I'm saying, setting to use. I would like to give a big thank you to all of the YouTubers who cover optimizing games and benchmarking. You know what I'm saying? Thank y'all so much, because y'all save me a lot of time. Real. When it's time for me to get ready to stream, make sure my computer doesn't explode, I watch one of y'all videos, leave y'all a like, most definitely. Appreciate y'all, all of you, every last one of y'all. I be watching a lot of y'all's videos. Everybody who does benchmarking and optimization videos, man, look, I watch all of it. I love it. Thank y'all so much. While looking at this, I know a lot of us are crying. I'm crying myself. I mean, I'm crying myself a little bit. I know I'm gonna have to sit up here and produce something. Maybe not. We all gonna have some fun regardless if it's we gonna play in 30 frames, 45 frames, 60 frames. Regardless, we gonna have some fun in this game, man. It's gonna happen. I know a lot of y'all, some of us don't give it. I mean, 30 frames, we've been playing 30 frames for a long time now. And you know, we finally get a taste of what 60 frames look like. We go crazy. We like, oh damn, this shit looks so good. I like how smooth it is. But now, we kind of going back, man. You know what I'm saying? We're going back a little bit. Other than that, all we can do is keep hope alive, man. People tired of spending money on these damn PC parts, bro, for higher performance and whatnot, just so the next game could be like, F your graphics card, bro. You better buy the next graphics card. We're not holding back in this game. Enough rambling from me. Appreciate y'all stopping by. That was the performance review. Hey, let's get to optimizing, man. Let's get to, some of us are already good. Some of us can just go ahead and pop the game in, turn the stream on, and just go ahead and do our thing. But other than that, y'all, till next time, baby.